Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajagacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajagacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, now the question is it really text 67 that we're on? It could be 65. Yes, 65. Thank you, Bhakti Chad. Okay, sorry about that. Slight delay. Okay. Page 131, text 65. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 30th day of October, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're studying chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized, and we're on text 65. Prasade Sarvadukanam Hanir Asyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Yashu Buddhihi Paryavatishtate Prasade Sarvadukanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Yashu Buddhi Paryavatishtate Prasade Sarvadukanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Yashu Buddhi Paryavatishtate Prasade Sarvadukanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Yashu Buddhi Paryavatishtate. Prasade Sarvadukkanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Yashu Buddhi Paryavatishtate. Anyone else on this side want to try it? Oh. Sare Sarvadukanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Yashu. Set him up. Set him up. Paryavatishtate. Okay. You want to try it? No. Okay, Jalatala, when you get a chance. Anyone online? Okay, we'll do some word by words. We're on page 131, text 65, and we're reading the word by word meanings. Prasade, on achievement of the causeless mercy of the Lord. Sarva, of all, dukkhanam, material miseries. Hani, destruction. Asya, his, upajayate, takes place. Prasanna chetasaha, of the happy-minded. He, certainly, ashu, very soon, buddhihi, intelligence, paryavatishtate, becomes well established. Translation. Translation 65, for one who is satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So there's no purpose, so we'll continue to text 66. I'll say, you say. Nasti buddhira yuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata kshantir ashantasya kutak sukham. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. Would you like to have a seat? You can sit here, on this side. Yeah, there we go. Oh, you even brought your own book. Very good. So I can't give you a page number because the page numbers are different on the softback. Well, we are on text 66 of chapter 2. 66 of chapter 2. Did I finish the translation? And how can there be peace? How can there be any happiness without peace? Purport. Unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, text 29, that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that he is the real friend of all living entities, then only can one have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal, and when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace, however much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life. Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So what I'd like to do is to backtrack a little bit, because Krishna, this book, Bhagavad Gita, as all books, there's a logic to the argument that Krishna is making. And sometimes we may lose sight of that if we just read 1 or 2 verses with the purport. So we're going to go back to text 62. 62, where Krishna is describing how all of us become entangled in this world. And it can cause us to forget completely about our spiritual nature, about God, and be in trouble. So this text 62 and 63 go together. I'm just going to read the translations. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Now, the word lust, or kama, as Prabhupada used it, doesn't just mean intense sex desire. It means any strong desire for material gratification. You can be lusty just for money, as we call greed. You know, if you look up lust, you'll see it has those several meanings. So that's the meaning here. I'm sorry?
Could craving be synonymous?
Yeah, craving. So let's just, he's showing a progression here. The first thing that happens is you contemplate the objects of the senses. And I always give the example of advertising. They have an art to it, right? How they can get your attention. Even in a few seconds, you're driving down the road and there's a billboard and, whoa, what is that, you know? And then you forget it, but it's planted a desire, even a subliminal desire in your mind. They've got it down, the advertising, you know, executives and stuff. So that's the active use of the objects of the senses to attract you. But even if you just walk down the street, there's nobody trying to do anything. There are so many things you can be attracted to: the sights, the sounds, the smells. Right? This is what happens, and so when you contemplate them, then you may develop an attachment. From that attachment, strong desire develops. There's a progression. And from that strong desire, when it's frustrated, you become angry. He's showing that it's a progression. And it goes on in text 63. From anger, complete delusion arises. And this happens often, you see it, you know, crimes of passion really are crimes of great anger. And you lose your, and you may do something you regret for the rest of your life. You may commit a murder or even just a robbery or whatever it is. You do something that's not in your real character, but because you have embraced this mode of ignorance, is called, with anger, you do something like that. And so from anger, delusion arises. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So this is a progression that's caused by our natural attraction for the things of the senses. And if we let that go to an extreme, it can cause tremendous pain in our lives. And we may have experienced that, or at least know somebody who had that. The perfect example, I remember when I first read this, I was thinking, because I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, you know, when all of these drugs were becoming very prominent. It was part of the culture. You know, fortunately, I never got involved in heavy drugs. But I knew people who did. And often you see, people who ruin their lives that way. I mean, it doesn't have to be drug. It can be alcohol, which is like the most common drug. And it's just, if you really become addicted to it, you can ruin your health, your body and your brain and everything. Everyone knows that. So that's a vivid example of what's being talked about here. When falls into the material pool, his intelligence is lost. So what is the medicine, or what is the way to prevent that? This text 64 is very, very critical. Raga dvesha vimuktestu. I'll skip the Sanskrit. But on the other hand, a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through the regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Now, this regulative principles of freedom, of course, we have in ISKCON what's called the regulative principles. Some of you may be aware of them. And these are the don'ts. In any discipline, and this is it's called the Bhakti Marga. Marga means a path. And we're familiar with that. If we want to achieve something in our life, you're serious about becoming a doctor. Okay? So that means you have to go through school, you have to take certain courses, and then there's more college after that. I don't know how many years it takes, 8 years now to become a qualified doctor in the United States. But it's a real path. You can't just be partying every night in school. You have to study for the test and pass and all kinds of things to become a MD in the United States. So that's one thing. Or if you want to become an athlete, or you want to become a musician. I remember I had a lot of music in my life when I grew up. My father was eager that I and my brother learned some music, and so I learned to play the recorder, then the clarinet, then the flute, and I was always active in bands in the orchestra in grade school, high school, like that. So there's a period you take up the instrument, and you're not really making music, Whoever's living with you has to tolerate the sounds you're making, they're making. My brother tried to play the violin for about a week, and he wasn't naturally attracted to it. I still remember the sounds he was making. So, but after a while, if you learn the technique and you follow the instructions, then you can start to make music. And it becomes a great pleasure, not only for you, but people, And we have that example here. People who are naturally musically inclined. Like there's one devotee named the Moga Leela Prabhu. I remember when he joined, and in about a week he learned to play the drum. Another week he learned to play the harmonium. He was just precocious, and he became very valuable in the kirtans. He's a wonderful devotee. So the point is, this regulative principles of freedom, this means not just what the don'ts, but also the do's. For instance, in the Krishna consciousness movement, if you're serious, you don't have, it used to be, in the early days, oh, you want to be a Hare Krishna? You got to move into the temple, And there wasn't much of a congregation. So, but now, most of the devotees live outside of the temple. But there are certain ways you follow the instructions of, you make your house into a little temple. You can have deities there, you can learn how to offer your food and purity and all these different things. So, the idea is that there is a set means of counteracting this syndrome of becoming attached and becoming controlled by your senses and really being imprisoned by the material energy and the bewildering material energy. And that process is what's called Krishna consciousness, and Krishna is teaching it in Bhagavad Gita. So what are these regulative principles of freedom? Well, there's the do's, like if you want to become initiated, get serious, then there are certain vows that you take. There's 5 vows. The main do is that you have to chant around these beads, which are 108 beads, 16 times, the Hare Krishna mantra. And it takes, about 2 hours a day. If you happen to come here at 5 o'clock or 5:15 after the Mangalarti, then we have Tulsi Puja and 5:15, devotees are chanting in the temple. Some are walking around, but they're chanting in those beads. That those 2 hours between 5:15 and 7:15 are allotted for chanting. You can chant later in the day if you have some duty. But you make a vow that you'll do that, to be serious. And you have to be doing it before you get initiated. So that you would say, yes, I can do this. So those are the do's. Then there's the don'ts. The don'ts are also important. So, no gambling. That can be an addiction too. But that's one that most everybody say, yeah, I can do that. All right, no gambling. But then there's no meat eating, no intoxication, even coffee and tea, what to speak of stronger things, and no illicit sex. Basically, sex outside of marriage. That's an easy way to just define it, you know. So that's, in modern culture, that can be difficult. But that's necessary in order to progress nicely on the path. Because these things put us into illusion. They're very strong attractions sometimes, and they can very much halt our spiritual advancement. Because we're trying to get free from the grips of material energy, which we have to remember. We're still in chapter 2. The whole chapter began with a lesson on the soul, that we're not the body, we're the spirit soul. And we never die, and we're never born. We forgot, right? Does anyone here remember their last birth or births? I don't, you know. But I have confidence in Krishna's words that there was. And there are, yeah, she probably does remember some things. She just can't articulate them. No, actually, there is empirical proof of reincarnation. There is empirical proof. And sometimes, children often, they will remember some incidents from previous life, and they'll say their mothers, to the mother, actually, you're not my mother. I remember my mother was over this. And then they'll check it out, and sure enough, there's a village, and things like that. I remember there's this. I ran into this on the YouTube years ago. Not India, right here in America, right in the middle of, the Midwest. A very pious Lutheran family had a kid, a boy who grew up, and he kept saying, "Oh, this was my name. I was driving an airplane, bomber, in World War II. And this was my name, this was the name of the bomber," and so forth. And so the parents would say, "Oh boy, he's got quite an imagination." But I don't know if they, or because he kept insisting it, so they checked it out and said, "Oh my God, there was a guy named such and such, and he did die in, this way, and he was riding this bomber that the kid described." And it's true. What to speak of the near-death experiences that are very common in the heart patient, goes under, he may have a crisis, and they run in and epinephrine and everything. And sometimes they're able to revive them. And then when they come out of it, occasionally they'll remember, yes, I observed the whole thing. This doctor came in and you performed this, and they see it. In fact, one of our own leaders, Satchidananda Swami, I remember getting on one side, and he was having a discourse on Zoom, and it was all about his near-death experience. He had an operation, he almost died, he was out of his body, he saw what was going on, And he was saying, yes, that confirms what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that the soul is separate from the body, it's always changing. This word, dehi nosmin yatha dehi, text 13, is so important. It says, just as in this body, we are going through childhood, right, and then adolescence and young manhood or womanhood like that. We all know that. We can remember some things from when we were 8 or 9, or so forth, right? I don't think this child will remember much from what he's doing now. It's a little young, But we know, we can tell him, yeah, you did this, and then we took you to the Hare Krishnas, and you. So, and then we just go on. Each of us is a certain age, and we have this, a certain past, and we have a certain future in this body, and then it'll end, right? Everyone knows that. But you won't end. Najayate, yeah. If she gets too noisy, you may have to take her out. Yeah. If the lounge is open, you can stay there, or you can. Yeah, you can. On the other side, yeah. Let him into the lounge. So we can all remember certain things from life growing up, certainly from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? We know that. So the soul is there, the body's constantly changing. Scientifically, when you eat something, the things are added, things are like, you're breathing in and out. It's constantly changing, and it's a very complicated machine. And then at a certain point it breaks down. It's called death. We all have to face that. We have to leave it. Then what? Is that the end? Those who like to not believe in God, they like to believe that's the end, right? They convince themselves it's the end, but it's not. It's not the end. You know, Najayate mriyate va kadachan nayam bhutva bhavita avanabuya adro nityak shastradoyam parano nahannite handamane shirire. That's text 20 of this chapter. Which means for the soul, there is never birth nor death at any time. We're not coming into, there aren't new souls coming into being, there aren't new souls dying. We're all trillions and zillions of souls, of living entities, in different bodies, in trees, in fish, and bacteria. Anything that shows any consciousness means there's a soul there, you know, just like us. We have the very rare human body that we can contemplate the ultimate goal of life, these philosophical things. What's the right, what can I do for my best future? That's it, you know, we do that all the time. But in the material plane, your parents are teaching you, yes, you have to study nicely in school and you'll get into a good college, you'll have a good, your life will be a success. Otherwise, you know, you'll be in trouble. They're trying to do that. But that just takes you a few years ahead. What about that critical next birth? You know, for that, you need to come to books of wisdom, like the Bhagavad Gita, given by a realized soul, like Srila Prabhupada, who's experienced in all this, and is coming in a line of other realized souls. So, that's a long way of getting to this point of practicing the regular principles of freedom, both the do's and the don'ts, and there are many taught here. You can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Wow, you know, which means that your life becomes very auspicious. He describes in the verse we read today what that means. Prasade. Now, of course, anyone who comes to the Hare Krishna temple, it's not long before one of the first Sanskrit words you learn is prasadam, right? It was mine. Prasadam means you know, very, very spiritual food that's offered to the Lord. Well, okay, that's one meaning of it. But prasadam really means in general, what? The causeless mercy of the Lord, the mercy of the Lord, in all its forms. One is in the form of food, other is in the form of association, in the form of the mantra. Everything that we have here, that Krishna is reaching out to us through the agency of his pure devotee, to give us a chance to purify our consciousness so that both in this life and what to speak at the end of life, we can be successful. What does it mean to be successful in this life? It means to be prasanna chetaso, naturally joyful. I mean, all of us have our ups and downs, right? You know? But can you imagine just being constantly joyful? Because you're in touch with the pure spirit in your heart, you see? You're not being whipped around by, you know, the material energy, but you're going through peacefully. And even the highs and the lows, because things will happen. You know, it may be the weather, it may be some emergency, it may be some disease. We've gone through the pandemic. So how to stay equipoised in the vicissitudes of this material world. That's part of the benefit of, that's part of the prasadam. So, because then he says, the 66 that we read, you can become peaceful, right? This word peace. One who is not going to, so prasanna hanarasya bhajaya prasannache ashu buddhi paryavatishtate. This the intelligence can become fixed. This has been a theme in the last few verses. Oftentimes our intelligence is disturbed because our plans are frustrated, or somebody insulted us, or I found out I had a disease. Oh my God, I can hardly even concentrate on my job now. You know, there's a million ways. But to be able to ride along and take the ups and downs of material energy, being fixed on the spiritual plane, and it's not impossible, then one can be, your intelligence can become fixed and established. And prasanna cetasa. Prasanna means two things. It means clear, and it means naturally joyful. This word comes up again at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. Brahma bhuta prasanna atma. By understanding Brahman, which is pure spirit and the source of everything. So that's another thing. So here, as Prabhupada, you know, he interjects in the translation what it really means. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. What are those threefold miseries? We're very familiar with them, although maybe not by that name. You know, have you ever been really disturbed in mind because somebody cheated you out of money, or you failed a test or something? So no matter what, nobody can console you, because you're not going to get into the school, you won't get the job, whatever it is, you know. So it's kind of, you're just disturbed. It's your own mind giving you problems. That's one of the miseries, adhyatmic. Adibautic miseries, we're all very familiar. Adibautic means other living beings causing you a problem. Often, other human beings, but not always. You know, could be, Prabhupada mentions bed bugs. It can be, you know, mosquitoes. But we're very familiar with that. And then there's the Adidaivik, very prominent lately. Incredible things going on with the weather, the climate. You know, who doesn't know about this thing that happened in Hawaii? You think of Hawaii, oh yes, the land, perfect weather, you know, and beaches and everything. You don't think hurricanes, wildfires, people burning to death. That's what happened, right? So this is called Adidaivik. And now, and as I like to point out, there's kind of a overlap, because it's Adidaivik, you know, the weather is going nuts, and there's more powerful hurricanes because the oceans are warming. Incredible. Off the Key West, it was like 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the ocean water. I wouldn't even go in Miami because it was too cold when I lived there for 6 years. The water was freezing, it's even cold. But you know, I mean, you know that means that the hurricanes get more powerful, right? They had this one in Acapulco overnight. It became a Super 5 that smashed Acapulco. It was a tropical storm, then boom, it's 165 miles an hour. So these are Adidaivik miseries, and you know they're all over the place. So Adiyatmak, Adibautic, Adidaivik miseries. We're either experiencing those or we're threatened by those, and the threat of them can also be a misery in and of itself. Oh my God, I can't get any insurance for my house now. You know, I bought this ideal house on the coast of Florida, but now there's big hurricanes coming. They won't insure my house. You know, because they'll lose billions of dollars. That in itself is nothing has happened, but your mind is disturbed. So this is material life, but here he says, prasade sarvadukanam hanir asyopajayate. So the material miseries are destroyed. In other words, they may happen, but they don't affect you so much because you're fixed in your determination and in your Krishna consciousness. Prasanna Chaitasa, quickly buddhi becomes fixed. And then the next verse we read 6. And then he says, one who is not connected with the Supreme and Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace, this shanti. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So these are some of the preliminary truths of Krishna consciousness, even in the stage of practicing, where one can become much more peaceful and happy and undisturbed in one's life, because you're getting onto the spiritual plane, and you have another frame of reference for your life, and you're drawing a happiness that you never knew that was even there, and that is from the spiritual plane, just by chanting Hare Krishna. There's a tremendous amount of joy to be had by chanting Hare Krishna. I get online. There's so many wonderful kirtans online. You can get, you know, on YouTube. You know, you could spend all day. You know, Bhagavad Gita. I knew him. He was here, and he was a temple president in Laguna Beach many years ago. Bhagavad Hari, yeah. And it's such beautiful kirtans, and if you're, you know, sensitized to it and you develop it, just the Hare Krishna alone can bring you to a nice platform of peace and happiness and joy. And again, it can intensify. So these verses are very important and practical for how we can be inspired to practice Krishna consciousness seriously. Yes, Noah, you have a question or comment? Oh, yeah. But we need to mic you right behind your head, because we have an audience out there. I'll turn it on. Turn it on. You know that.
All right, so my question is, would you say that chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is the best form of devotional service?
Sure. It's certainly the foundation of Krishna consciousness, of anything. And it's not my saying it. You know, this is, was that Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatadanyata. This is a verse from the Brihanadaya Purana. It's from the Shastra. Lord Chaitanya chanted that. In fact, he said, you know, he took the position of a student, and he had a spiritual master, Lord Chaitanya. And his spiritual master taught him this. What it means, I put it into a little poem, of course. If you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, that my head ever under your lotus feet bow. So that last part is about the attitude to chant very humbly, you know. So yeah, I mean, and one more Shastric confirmation from the Upanishads, no less, which are, you know, traditional part of the Vedas. In a Upanishad titled the Kali Santarana Upanishad, which means the Upanishad which helps you to counteract the ills of the Kali Yuga and become delivered from the ills of the Kali Yuga. So the essence of it is this two verses. The first verse is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashikam Nam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam Natak Purataropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So this Hare Krishna, these 16 names, I did 16 separate words there, 16 names of the Shodashika Nam, is the best way to counteract the ills and evils of this Kali Yuga, which are all around us. You know, you can, everyone has his own list. You can search through all the Vedas, you won't find a better means than this chanting. And one of the things that is so important about it is that it is open to everybody. There are no hard and fast rules. Any place, anyone, any time, you can chant Hare Krishna. You can't go into the bathroom and start chanting the Rig Veda. You know, it's an offense. But you can chant Hare Krishna there.
So the best way to develop a relationship with Krishna in this age is chanting Hare Krishna?
Yes. And you have to understand that that's the central practice, most powerful, that's the foundation. But there are also other things that enhance it, so that you can chant purely and quickly. Like this deity worship. In other words, we need ways in which we can focus on Krishna. Yeah, Haribol, you're fine. So deity worship is important. That's why we have this temple. You know, we can come together, we have a place. We even put heat in a couple of years ago. You know, do you feel it? Nice. You will feel it. It's going to get pretty cold. This morning it was like in the 40s. I couldn't believe how cold it was when I took my walk. I didn't have any gloves, so I had to pull my coat over, you know, I was chanting. Anyway, but the point is that places like this are important. So the deity worship is very important. The books are certainly important. The association, the prasadam, all those are important. But the center of the whole thing is the chanting. You see, because it's very powerfully attracts you and it attracts Krishna. The name, it's inconceivable. You know, when I first heard it, I said, really? The holy name of Krishna, and there's a verse, I won't chant the Sanskrit, the word Krishna is non-different from Krishna himself. How does that work? You know, Krishna is God, he's all powerful and everything, and there's this sound. But the point is that it has the same potency to attract you, and and purification and everything else. So yes, we should become serious about chanting. Like when I started, I chanted 2 rounds a day. You know, I chanted 2 rounds a day. Then I went to work. I had a job. I had a car, an apartment, and everything. You know, of course, on the way to work, I had a nice long drive. I was also singing Hare Krishna in the car. And in the hospital where I worked, I was trying to cure my patients. You know, I wasn't a doctor, but by chanting in my mind. So I was chanting a little more than just, you know, an hour a day, whatever. But the point is that I didn't have, you know, a temple and an environment and everything like that. But I integrated the chanting into my life. And it's not difficult to do. And the benefits are, it's free. You know, Prabhupada never charged anything for the mantra. That may not mean much to you, but there were yogis asking, you know, $35. Now it's $1,000 for the mantra that they gave. Did you ever hear that? It's completely free. So why not try it? You know. So yes, Hare Krishna mantra is the essence of the practice of devotional service, and it's invaluable.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, should we go on? Oh wait, we have another comment or question here. Where's our other mic? Okay, that's the lady side.
Prabhu, can you elaborate on the characteristics of the soul?
Elaborate on the characteristics of the soul?
Yeah, you talked about the soul.
The soul is pure consciousness, and the source of consciousness within the body. You know, it's a particle. It's compared sometimes to a photon. You know, in the sunshine, it's made of millions. Each photon has a little bit of light and a tiny bit of heat, right? So the qualities are the same as the sun, but they're very, very minute. So we have Krishna's qualities in minute quantity. We're also conscious. We also have some strength. We have some intelligence and all these different things. So the soul is the irreducible particle of pure spirit, pure consciousness, that inhabits each body, each organism. Bible doesn't use that word, but that, you know, living entity is often synonymous with the soul. Then what's the combination? The organism, a body with a soul in it, and the you know, and it includes the ants, and it includes these trees standing over here, you know, for who knows how long, you know. Anything where you see consciousness, there's a soul present there. And if you see that way, and you say, oh, you know, here are all my brothers and sisters, you know, in these bodies, not only in the human bodies, but all the other bodies. And so there's a certain oneness there. Prabhupada said, really, if you want peace and unity and fraternity, then you have to recognize the truth of this. That all these, you know, this division, this racism and this nationalism and all of this business is based on a false bodily concept of life. And it can cause complete havoc in the world. You know, the wars and all this craziness, you know. So that sense of oneness, that we're all living entities. And where is our point to meet and to you know, to have the same relation? It's the Father, the Supreme Father. And he's not an old man, you know. He loves to have fun, right? What does Leela mean? Krishna is engaging in Leela constantly. Leela means play. It means something you don't have to do. Prabhupada's, you know, English was a second language to them. So he always says, Krishna has nothing to do. But what do you mean? But then, you know, he said, well, wait a minute, he's doing so many things in the spiritual world. How does he have nothing to do? It means that he doesn't have to do anything. Nobody can make him do anything. He doesn't have to do anything to eat, to sleep, to earn money, and nothing like that. He's the controller of all the energies. So why is he doing all this stuff in the spiritual world? He's playing with the gopis. He's playing with his friends. Now he's playing with his mother, meaning that he's invoking this wonderful rasa of motherly affection, and he just revels in it. When his mother gets angry with him, you know, she forgets that he's God, but she's doing it for his own good, because he's getting into trouble by breaking the pots of yogurt and running away, right? This is Dhamma. You know what Dhamma means? Bound around the belly with a rope. Dhamma means rope, and Udara means belly. A famous image, right? So here's the source of all the universes, the source of all the consciousness, the controller of all energies, hiding all of that, you know, to evoke this wonderful love of his mother. That's eternal. It's called a rasa. So this is what we're aiming for, you know, to be able to appreciate that and to be able to enter into our own, rediscover our own particular rasa with Krishna, eternally. So that's what the living entity is. We've unfortunately turned away from that relationship, come to this material world, forgotten it, and we've been immersed in the fighting with the illusory energy since time immemorial. But Krishna says, chapter 7, we're going to come to it, Daivi esha gunamahi mama maya dodatyaya mamevaye papadyante mayametang tarantite. That this divine energy of mine, composed of the three modes of nature, we won't get into that right now, but we all know what they are, we just know by name, is impossible to overcome on your own. But those who surrender unto me, they attune their desires with mine, become my servants, can easily cross beyond it. You see? And this verse that Prabhupada cites, he calls it the peace formula, the last verse in text 5. Why can we turn to it? 529, you'll find it if you have the same edition, on page 255. I'll skip the Sanskrit. So Prabhupada called this the peace formula. A person in full consciousness of me knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material existence. Now, that sounds pretty overwhelming, right? But the key element here is that he's the Surit, Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He's all-powerful. He's created the whole universe. We're just insignificant, you know. But he's within everyone's heart as the Surit, the best friend, the well-wisher of everyone. He's not out to exploit us. He's out to benefit us. And the benefit comes when we recognize our relationship with him and we become conscious of Krishna and we take part in the process of devotional service. And then we'll find, as described here, real peace and real happiness. Prasanna Chaitasu, Ashu means quickly. You know, quickly may mean one lifetime, or it may mean 5 minutes, depending on our enthusiasm about, you know, our faith. So that's what the soul is. We are persons. We are spiritual persons, but we've forgotten our spiritual personality, and we're all living in a different body, you know, due to our karma, but it's a human body. And therefore we have the ability to understand these things and to transform our activities. We don't have to simply obey our instinct and our whims. We can act according to the Shastra, according to the scripture and according to the acharyas. And at the end of chapter 16, there's a wonderful lesson there. I always turn, there's a lot of little lessons within the Bhagavad Gita, you know. And this one, he's just described, it's called the divine and demoniac. Now we don't want to really be on the demoniac side, because that leads to a lot of suffering, a lot more than we're experiencing now. So at the end he says, those who have these demoniac tendencies I cast down into hellish, you know, births and so forth, because they need it. They need that reformation. So then he says, there's 3 gates leading to this hellish experience. Tribadam nadakasedam dwaram nashanam atmana kama krodas tata lobas tasmarita triyangjit. There's 3 gates leading to this hellish life. Lust, anger, and greed. And the wise give them up. Those are gates to horrible suffering, if you allow those to control your life. So then he says, I'm getting old. I used to know these backwards and forwards. Sorry, slight delay. So, this is a short chapter. Yeah. So, if you'd like to join me on page 635. Yeah, 635, text 22 in chapter 16. Etava mukta konteya tomo dvarais tibiradaha acharat yatmanak shreyas tato yati param gatim. So this is it. You know, there's a book by, who is it? Kierkegaard, Either Or. He was a Christian, right? Either or. There's a lot of either or. So this is it. So this is the good side. So no, he's describing. One who is free. The person who has escaped these 3 gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. Those acts are what we're teaching here, what we're learning from Bhagavad Gita, the process of devotional service. Then he goes back and he says, but yakshasta vidamutsujyavartate kamakadataha nasasidamavaptotina sukham naparam gatim. He or she who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. So now he's introduced the idea of the Shastra. You see, the Shastra, that's what we're reading here. The Shastra means something that you agree to be controlled by, that you agree to follow. Even though your gut desires to do something, okay, I'm going to follow. But if you just discard it and you could be, you forget about it, then you can't get happiness, you can't get perfection, and you certainly can't go to the supreme goal. And so now the last verse is key, and Prabhupada really embraced this verse, his whole movement. Tasmat chastram pamanam te karya vavastitao gyatva shastra vedanoktam karma kartum iharhasi. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So the word pramana is so important. It means evidence that we accept for what we will do, you see. Now, without Shastra or something like, then the evidence becomes your own whims, what I like to do. This was the ethic of the hippies when it first. If it feels good, do it, you know. But that soon turns into a nightmare, you know. It feels good, do it. It feels good, do it. But then after a while, it doesn't feel good anymore. You know, I took too much drug, I did this, you know, I got pregnant, you know. Now what do I do? You know, run back to my parents, you know, and live in the home again. Because the whimsical life is very, very risky, you know. So Krishna says, don't act whimsically. You'll never be happy. You'll never get perfection. You certainly won't go to the supreme goal. So what to do? Accept the Shastra, the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, as Prabhupada has given us. He hasn't distorted it. He's not out to make money. As a pramana. Pramana means evidence of how to act. To do what? Karya, what to do and what not to do. And so this word karya means duty. Duty is something you accept as a higher injunction how to act, you know. And if that duty is being given by someone who has your best interests at heart, like Krishna, he's Surit, he's the well-wisher of every living being, then accepting that duty will be to our ultimate benefit. And understanding what the Shastra says, perform it as a matter of duty. And then your life will become auspicious. Yeah, just like any duty, you know. I mean, when I was growing up, everyone was afraid of the draft board. Being drafted into the army and sent a million miles away to Vietnam to fight in the swamps against people who we had no. It's crazy, you know. So that was you know, a danger. So that was a duty that we didn't want to accept, but you were supposed to, you know, for the greater good of the United States. But everyone can see that we don't have any argument with these Vietnamese. There was a famous boxer, or Cassius Clay, right? He said, "I'm not going into the army." They drafted him. I don't have any argument with those Vietnamese. Immediately they took away the title, you know, his boxing title and everything. But he was famous for that, mostly for that. So, but on understanding Shastra Vidanoktam, the rules and regulations, the regulative principles of freedom given by the Shastra, perform those as a matter of duty, and then everything will become auspicious in your life. So that's really what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. We have to be willing to take those on, and at first, when we first do it, it can be painful. But that's what it takes in order to get the mercy of Krishna. You know, and the wonderful thing is, you can take it at your own speed. Just integrate this Hare Krishna mantra into your life. You don't have to do anything else to start. That, and read Bhagavad Gita, try to associate with devotees, and take prasadam. And soon you'll see that, oh, this is really where I can be happy, you know. And the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit how happy you can be. We should, you know, that's why we have the books, you know, the Krishna book and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll end with this. We're getting late. So, like here's a poem about the holy name, about the holy name of Krishna. When we chant Hare Krishna, we're actually chanting the names of Radha and Krishna. You know, Hare is Hara, the goddess of fortune, in the vocative form, and Krishna is Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rama can be understood to be another name of Krishna, as the supreme enjoyer and the supreme source of all spiritual enjoyment. You know, so one of our great acharyas named Raghunath Das Goswami wrote so many wonderful books, and this verse is by him. It's about the chanting of the names of Radha and Krishna. So he says, Radheti nama navasundara siddhu mugdam, Krishneti nama madhurabhadagara dugdam, savakshanam surabhiraga himena ramyam kritvata daiva pibame rasane chadarte. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes, such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet, such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. So this is one verse describing how he's experiencing the holy name. And we can also experience that. In other words, it just takes a determination to train ourselves so we can experience it. So we shouldn't miss that chance. And basically, chant Hare Krishna as much as possible. Get some beads, gradually increase how long you chant, and read the Bhagavad Gita, and come to the temple. We're having some wonderful festivals coming up. Govardhan Puja, which is on the 12th, I believe. It's a Sunday coming up.
Sorry, can I just make a quick announcement? There's a mailing list, so like if you want to know about these things, the sign up is just out there. I can actually bring it in here, so if you know, I'll bring it in here.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Yeah. And stay on our mailing list. We have a nice little newsletter announcing all these things. And I don't think there's any admission there's no admission fee to any of these festivals. You're all excited. And lately, the Sunday feasts have all been sponsored, like one after another. In other words, it's free Sunday feast, which is what it used to be, but it's kind of expensive. But if someone sponsors it, it's fine. It's all free. And Hare Krishna mantra is certainly free. Chant it anywhere, anytime, as long as you like. And it's the most valuable thing. But the main thing is chant with care and devotion, and try to hear every syllable. Try to hear each name. You get the full benefit. So we'll adjourn now. We're going to have a kirtan with an arti, and you'll see the beautiful form of the deities. And you're certainly welcome back tomorrow night. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. I'm sorry? Okay, 267. Let's see. Yeah, we read 2 verses, didn't we? Actually. 5 and 66. Right? Okay, Chad, you and Jalatala are in charge of getting us on the right verse tomorrow. Usually it's Monday I have a problem because it's a long layover. Yeah. Turn this off. Turn that off.